We have now been able to really mobilize together as a collective after COVID, and we're rebuilding, right? We were building with strategy, so today we are going to review that for you. Just so also Mr. Lee knows what efforts we've been doing together collaboratively. And then we may take a stretching pause. How are you doing? And then we're gonna open it up for dialogue. And it's not just one-sided, it's gonna be both-sided dialogue. So there are parking lot places around our room. And you all are either the change makers, the thought bringers, systematic breakers of the disinvestment we've seen historically. You all historically have done the work in South Stockton. That's why you were asked to come here to kind of speak on behalf of what you're seeing, how we're collaborating. And after our presentation, come on in, everybody, because we're starting. We want to be very cognizant of time. Yes, thank you. He's from South Stockton. I should even offer.
Hi, good afternoon.
We don't sit with our back to the door. Y'all know what time it is. So, Vice Mayor feels comfortable right there. We're gonna go over right now. I'm gonna give it back to Jason because he's very more eloquent than me. But I kind of want to just set the groundwork and get it very clear on why we're here. It's really a collaboration of ideas, and we're going back and forth. Jason, I'm gonna turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm also Jason.
Well, let me get a picture of that screen.
Oh, absolutely. So while he's doing that, I want to say thank you all for coming. We're really just pleased to have this opportunity for leaders to engage together and with our elected official here. And to thank United Way and Kristen Burtwhistle for hosting us today. We're glad to collaborate with United Way always. Just a couple quick things. Restrooms, if you go out this way and through the blue doors to the right, there's a couple restrooms. We also have a couple of trash cans. So I should have said first, we have pizza in the kitchenette in the back. Please feel free to take some. It's there for you, and drinks. Please take some of all of that. And there's a trash can here in the front and then one outside the door. So don't worry, there is more space for trash after. And I should introduce myself. I'm Jason Weiner. I'm Programs Manager at reInvent South Stockton Coalition. And I'd like to ask our RSSC staff who are in the room to wave, stand up, wave. We've got a couple here, a couple in the hallway right now. You're going to see them, most of them, in just a second, because part of what we're going to do is share what the reInvent South Stockton Coalition is doing. But I want to say to start that the coalition is all of you, just as much as it is the staff, and even more than it is us as staff. And so what we're presenting is really the scope of the work that you all do along with us together. And after that, we will give Vice Mayor Lee an opportunity to make a couple remarks, whatever he'd like to do to get us kicked off. And then we'll go into the questions period and have a discussion, a dialogue together. Just a couple more reminders. We're scheduled till 3:00 p.m. I know some people have to leave a little earlier than that, but we'll wrap right at 3 with wherever the conversation is at that point. I think I said all of those things. Oh, questions. So we were handing out, and we have plenty more Post-it notes and pens. If you would like to ask a question, when it's that point, please feel free. Just raise your hand, and we'll go around and call on people. But also, if you think of something while we're talking or while Vice Mayor Lee is talking, you can write it down on one of the Post-its, just raise it up, and someone from our team will come get it from you. And we'll make sure to put it on these around the room, and then we can address them after. And that includes people who have to leave. If you have to leave and you want to write a couple questions up, please do that, and we will make sure to get to those questions. This event's being live streamed as well on our social media channels, and you can always watch it later. You can share it with colleagues later as well.
I do also want to say it's also being live streamed also for our stakeholders who cannot be here. We have stakeholders outside at the state level, in the regional levels, and they're really looking to RSSC for support and infrastructure building, and economic development, workforce development. So a lot of them can't be here physically, so we did this also. This is streaming live on our Facebook platform. Okay, so you guys can go back, review it again. Any questions that you all are, come to the front, communications
No, let me
director.
let me
Come
just
to the
add that it's
front.
also on Instagram and YouTube, so you can go to any of those platforms,
Yes.
it'll be there.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep everything in the frame
I got you.
and not talk behind the camera. So when you all address it, be cognizant of your brothers and sisters who are watching as well.
That's right.
All right.
Thanks. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we don't want to take too much of your time. So just remember, as I said, RSSC is a broad coalition of partners and residents, including most of the folks here today. And so the work that we do as a coalition is the work of all of our partners acting collectively with shared goals and shared data. And what we're going to do today is invite up our project coordinators to talk about each of the different result areas that they help to facilitate. But again, we're not claiming credit for all this work, it's all of you as well. So we'll just give a quick overview, and we're going to move through this very, very quickly because we got a lot of slides, but we don't want to spend time on them. So what RSSC is about is transforming the community through collective impact. If you haven't heard that term, it's what I just said. Partners working together with shared goals and shared data, and an organization like us that can help coordinate all of that. Our vision is a future where all South Stockton residents are empowered to transform their own community and address the root causes of poverty. So our vision is not about having a huge amount of resources for the community, it's about having the community empowered to demand those resources for itself. What's our story? We've been around for more than 10 years now. It started out with an application to the federal government for something called a promise zone, actually twice, denied both times, but even though that was denied, I think some of the people in the room were involved in that. Even though we didn't win that, the group stayed together and said, we want to continue to work together and have our shared goals. If any of you folks, was anyone in the room at the original residence summits back in like 2014, 2015, 2016? I see a couple of hands. And so it was more than 100 residents that got together to identify what these result areas are that we're about to talk about. And that map is the promise zone map that they submitted to the federal government. And what we're showing it to say, that's not all we serve anymore, because that promise zone application was 10 years ago. We are serving Southwest Stockton, Southeast Stockton, Weston Ranch, Central Downtown Stockton, and French Camp. Like we don't need to put too much boundaries on that. And really a lot of what we do is the entire county. So these are statistics that won't surprise any of you, and I'm not going to run through them, but just to say, we know that there's big disparities between South Stockton and these areas that I just talked about, and the remainder of the city, remainder of the county, including that 20 and a half year difference in life expectancy between one of those census tracts and one that's in kind of north central Stockton. A lot of distrust and disconnections from the services that are supposed to serve the community. But we also have a lot of assets. We're one of the most diverse communities in California. You all know this, more than 68% of the Promise Zone area is Latino. And we're the hub of where people were told to move if they were African American, if they were Filipino, if they were Latino, or Chicano. We're right in that is our area, and we're young. But we also have other kinds of assets like libraries and the port and the county fairgrounds. We have public housing communities that are really vibrant, and residents have pride in their community. This is something that Mayor Tubbs used to say, but he actually was quoting a business leader. Change happens at the speed of trust, and that's really what RSSC has been about: is how do we build trust between people in our community and how do we build trust with the services and organizations that are supposed to serve them. So I won't go into this too much, but if you're
I
interested
wanna
in
slow
collective-
down,
oh,
too.
you want to slow down this one?
I want you to really
Yeah.
look at how we've been narrative bending. RSSC wasn't kind of looking like RSSC and people it was serving. So all these pictures that you see, that's the social justice work y'all been doing. We've been chronologically audio, video capturing the work of you all. Just show y'all. It's important to see yourselves. So pay attention to this. These are just not stock photos. These are intentional on telling our story and what we look like as a community.
Yeah, this was a gathering around Black birth equity that we're going to talk
Black
about in a
Maternal
minute.
Health Symposium,
This is talking to handball players. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
right?
So yeah, absolutely. And RSSC is focused on equity about opportunity, and making up for some of the disparities that have happened and disinvestment and unequity that's happened through the years. So we'll start with our health equity. Did you want me to take this one? Because Kimberly Robinson is our project coordinator for this, and she's out of town today.
I'll chime in,
Okay.
maybe some background.
So as you can see, some really stark statistics here, and these come from public health. 349 lives, I think that was through last year in the county, but 114 of those were in South Stockton. And 75% of those deaths were Black or African American.
And why we started focusing there, right? I stood up 2 years ago, coming in there as executive director, and I said, RSSC needs to get back to this. When they originally created RSSC, they were talking about those rates, and they were looking at crime statistics of homicides with our Black boys correlated to graduation rates. We're looking at the data different now, right? Because we're experiencing the disparity at an early age. And you're gonna see this in all the data.
Yeah.
Since before COVID is exacerbated in our areas. The indicators are everywhere. That's why when we're looking at the data that President Obama was looking at, and when this initiative was really pushed through for the South Stockton Promise Zone areas, they were looking at certain indicators. So it went back to some of those grassroots indicators. One of them was maternal health of our children, which supports that cradle to career work, right? You see how this is all interconnected?
Absolutely. So our programming, there's a couple people trying
So listen, we knew we had to rebuild infrastructure. It was a different way on how we had to do it. Looking at secondary data, our people was like, we're tired of this. Stop coming into our communities, keep asking for surveys. You know what's happening down here. We have to really show initiative on builds, right? So we did a pilot for a lactation space that brought together doulas, that brought together teachers, that brought together individuals that were practicing that midwifery again, that was historically taken from populations to save them in the way they practice. So now, with the CHW work that we're pursuing with United Way, Pathways Hub, with Amelia and Adams, and how we're building together, we're gonna be decreasing those outcomes. So we launched a consultant office adjacent to a free space for the community. Come up there, we're at Huddle. There's a very diverse, creative space, and that space is a healing space. So we were very intentional in getting the money from our partner, Dignity Health, which helped with the name, plating, and this beautiful mural. Health Plan also donated $25,000 to bring diapers, to have lactation consulting, to also have space where we were connected to doulas. And that rolled over into our symposium and our work with PEI, right? So it's ways how you build community where community will come to get healed, right? RSSC is really focusing on the ecosystem of the person.
So we've been working on the Black Birth Equity Initiative for more than a year now. We also have health equity areas working on opioid fentanyl awareness. You can see that at all our events. We partner with public health. Air quality and asthma-related disparities, many of our partners work on those very deeply.
Yeah.
Diabetes awareness, including classes that are happening right now, and water quality.
Now opioid is big too. Thank you, Rachel Zorro, for being here. The San Joaquin Public Health Department and our opioid coalition, our Safety Opioid Coalition, where we launched with supports in the community and government to bring awareness on fentanyl use. Age 15 to 16 died, and then their race exacerbated, and now they can't find the pills, right? So any pill, the county is using that. One pill can kill, but we also have to have awareness, right,
Yes.
on how it's getting there, right? So that's public safety. That's a public safety issue, and it's a health equity issue, okay? And our kids are dying at a higher rate as well in that area, okay? Our impact, so we did a number of variety of ways on how we re-engage the community. We supported that with a very social atmosphere and space, and a lot of you all were able to attend and participate. We talked about car safety, bringing public health in at a lot of these baby showers, resources, the WIC program. We had the Fathers program. One of our fathers happened to pass away, but we got him on the podcast. And he was talking about why Black fathers matter in the unit and today and what's happening in our families. We were having those courageous conversations at these baby showers, and they were beautiful. So shout out to public health and shout out to San Joaquin Health Plan, because they really allowed for that money to go back into the coalition to help some of the work that we were doing together. All right, so that's our impact. It'll be in our impact report that's coming up.
And we, for each of these areas, we list our partners, so you can see some of the different agencies and groups that we work with, including Prevail and others in the room. Next up is Cradle to Career. Ms. Luethel Seawood is our project coordinator there. She wasn't able to be here today, so I'll cover this very quickly. Just to say, Cradle to Career is everything from early childhood education and preschool all the way through to people getting training and opportunities for good jobs. And every place along that pathway, there needs to be support and opportunity for people. So our vision is about those stronger pathways and a community of support for people as they go through that entire life cycle. So as you can see, like I said, we work on 4 different areas: early childhood education, K-12 educational success, transition to adulthood, which is college or career training, and workforce development.
I want some bragging rights real quick. Ms. Seawood was brought in from the African American Chamber.
Mhm.
And she did 26 years out there at the Tracy Depot as a very high person in her ranking over logistics. So she knew business etiquette. She knew how to get people in line and say, hey. She was teaching the people as well, right? This is the type of re-infrastructure we're doing in the Cradle to Career, but she grew that and reached out to some of our chambers who's here, and brought them in as well. And we did the diversity, it wasn't diversity,
Chamber
the
diversity.
equity, ethnic
Yes,
chamber,
sir.
and brought people together. We talked about economic development in the area and what businesses would do good in the area. So we were looking at strengthening the social, thank you for being here, Eunice. We were looking at the whole social unit of the person when we talked about our impact and how we would connect. So how do we get pathways? How do we get school attendance to be better, right? We were seeing different indicators through the San Joaquin County data that was showing. And a lot of it was rooted in mental health and wellness for our children as well.
And if you are interested in helping with any of these kinds of impacts, we would welcome you to be part of our Cradle to Career Coalition that meets monthly and aligns this work. I know, you know, we have folks like Elazar who are already part of it.
Right. Patchwork.
And here's a list of some of the partners that have been a part of this work already. Next, we have our Youth Advisory Council. Joelian X couldn't be here today, but he's our project coordinator, new in January, just started in January, and has already really taken off with this work. And youth has been a really important component of the work we do in the community since the very beginning. We had a Youth Advisory Council through COVID, and then we had lost that staffing, and so we kind of had to rebuild it. We now have, I think it says on the slide, 40 youth that are registered for it that have met.
It's actually 55.
55 on the list.
We're getting pumped up.
Yep.
Some of the citizen famous like Chris Halsey and all of them are coming out. We're so excited to have them come together in civic engagement.
Yes.
They're gonna be learning policy. They're gonna be learning how to speak on behalf of the people and really create agency amongst us as well. Because guess what? We can build fellowships and we can place our young leaders in our organizations to really rebuild and restructure us. As a coalition, we're talking about capacity building, overall arching, how do we support each other in collectivism, okay?
And you're going to see them showing up, for example, at City Hall to talk about their policy priorities as well. And so we have the Youth Advisory Council, and they're participating in a number of other areas as well, including service. Last December, they did a great feeding the community project called Love in the City. And we have partners there. Next up is our Housing Justice Coalition. I'd like to welcome out James to give this section of share.
Hello, everybody. Hello, my name is James Hill. I am the new Housing Justice / Neighborhood Transformation Senior Project Coordinator. So I'm gonna go through two interest areas right now. The first one being the Housing Justice Coalition, right? So what is the Housing Justice Coalition? In effect, it is a space where residents, community-based organizations, and people who work in government can kind of come together and push advocacy and push policy, right, to get more housing in Stockton. So why do we need to exist, right? Well, even before COVID, a lot of our BIPOC communities said, hey, we cannot afford homes. Even we got a statistic much recently that there's over 3,700 estimated unhoused folk in San Joaquin County, and we kind of know where they're centralized, right? Also, housing isn't being built, right? We got 1% of the housing stock since 2010. So you have a combination of the struggle to afford the rent, and there's not enough housing being built, right? And that's kind of why the Housing Justice Coalition was created in the fall of 2020 with 3 goals: to increase home ownership, to decrease evictions, and to get people off the streets and into housing. So what have we actually done in the Housing Justice Coalition, right? Well, first things first, we brought community engagement in the housing element. If you don't know what the housing element is, it's a plan that every city has to draft to ensure that they have adequate housing in their city, right? So who best to get involved in that plan than the community itself, which is why we had a lot of community members get involved in the housing element, and they actually discussed improvements to draft that plan, right? We held listening sessions in the community with people that had evictions or were troubled by evictions, right? And we worked with one of our partners, Faith in the Valley, to follow up with those folks to create tenant units, right? So we talk about collective impact, that's where it is. We worked with the San Joaquin County Council of Governments to get a housing trust fund built. There's no money in it yet, but the structure is there. So when money is there, we can start. And lastly, we hosted a candidate forum last year. I know a lot of people in here were attending to kind of talk about housing issues in Stockton. And lastly, we're currently doing a housing justice survey, right? So we interviewed over 400 folks in South Stockton. They gave their zeitgeist on what the housing issues are in South Stockton. We're currently partnering with El Concilio right now to get Spanish translation and Spanish outreach, right? Because you can't talk about South Stockton without the Spanish community. And we don't have a lot of data right now because it's still in the works, but I did want to showcase some. The vast majority of people that accessed the survey made less than $30,000 a year, right? So what comes to mind when we talk about policy and advocacy? All right, and this is our Housing Justice Coalition partner list. I know there's a couple people already in here, like Greg from Stand Affordable Housing. We got the resident councils in here. This is not an exhaustive list. If you want to join the coalition or learn more, please come talk to me right after, right? All right, that leads me to my next interest area, neighborhood transformation, which is a good segue since houses make up a neighborhood, right? Why do we need to worry about neighborhood transformation? Well, the answer is very simple, right? When the neighborhood changes, the people change as well. And we have a lot of data to prove that, right? So neighborhoods in Stockton have historically been divested from, right? We talk about Highway 4, Fair Housing Act, very easy to see, Little Manila, right? Once the largest enclave of Filipinos outside the Philippines, now a shell of its former self. It's very dilapidated. And what does that mean when a space is dilapidated? When we talk about the emotional integrity of a neighborhood, right? We talk about the broken window theory. If one window is broken, if one house looks a little ramshackled, why not another house? What's if it's another house that has a window broken, right? It's that downward spiral we want to prevent. And lastly, honestly, our environment in South Stockton does not facilitate people moving about. A very good example is this Sierra Vista. I'm a little biased since that's my childhood neighborhood, right? Absolutely, yeah. Right, so Sierra Vista, they transformed their community, right? No longer is it 1950 sensibilities, everybody got a backyard. Now it's communal. Now we got communal spaces, so people feel involved to interact with the space they live in. And when they do that, it opens up a lot of opportunities, not only social, but economic, right?
Green space.
Green space.
Everybody say green space.
Green space, absolutely. So that influences our objectives, right? We want to increase access to spaces and resources the community needs. We want to increase infrastructure that supports the physical and mental health of our communities. And we also want to increase access to capital. So what have we done, right? We held a neighborhood transformation day late last year. We had 42 volunteers, picked up 2 tons of trash. But most importantly, we worked with Jessica from Red Rabbit Advocacy, right? When you go in those spaces, you cannot just go in and clean it up. You have to talk to the people that live there because that's effectively your home. We talked to them, we built that trust, and we're even able to help 3 unsheltered residents immediately get support, right? So that's what I'm talking about. In 2025, we actually have a list of goals that we want to do. So first things first, we want to start a social media campaign. We want to let people know that, hey, reporting illegal dumping is not snitching. It is your duty to make sure your neighborhood is clean, right?
Well said again
Yes.
for the ones in the back.
Right. We want to host 8 cleanup days. The first one starting in late March, right? To get people engaged in cleaning up the neighborhood.
It's our second one.
Yeah, our second one, right? And we want to engage CBOs and folks who work with the government on how to interact with unhoused folk, right? Because they are humans. They deserve to be treated with dignity and respect like the rest of us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I have I'm gonna say something, I'm sorry. It was very profound when we went out there for the first cleanup. And I was trying to really very much bring my biases into the situation. You gotta check yourself, right? And I'm like, how is it that all of our people are out here? Is it not it's a disconnection? And I was finding out things like, there's only one agency that holds housing vouchers and are able to approve it in the entire county. What?
Yeah.
Oh, I got put out because my SSI, don't put this on video. I don't want my children to know I'm out here. I had senior living, it's gone now. I had a man, he was like, I help clean up, come on. But what we doing? How are we gonna get it cleaned up? How are we gonna fix it? So you're listening to these stories brings humanity to the face in the work that we do. Because guess what? It's tiring, right? Let's check in real quick. It's tiring. And so we've been going through a lot of different things. So we've been branching out. You saw a new strategy. Me, knowing Stockton, loving Stockton, I was like, people dwell everywhere. Call the churches, call the synagogues, call social groups. So we began to transform out of the agency because people wasn't playing in the parks. Where was they going? To heal and support and connect. And we found all of these people. Sangre Car Club came out of the handball restoration at Brotherhood Park. They loved how we just came and presented and really pushed for that handball. They felt seen. And when the community feels seen, they will allow you to come in and transform.
Yes,
You dealing constantly with the trauma, and I use a trauma lens, and I will never let anybody take that from me. Because this is what needs to lead the work. We need to be empathetic. We got to come together, especially with legislation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because we have to practice equity. We have to. So that's our neighborhood transformation. It's not just physical. It's initiatives about well-being of the mind in greener spaces, in our parks, better public safety. That's neighborhood transformation. It's a whole ecosystem of a person. And Zinga could be teaching mentorship with her young girls. And why are the probation departments taking that education? It should be you, Queen, right? Where you taking our young girls that are prostituting on Charter Way? That's transformation.
Sure is.
Go get our neighborhood back.
That's right.
when this was founded, it was founded in 2014 by some that passed already. Roslyn, Amelia Ann Adams, the ones who go get you on the street and talk to you and love on you. So that's neighborhood transformation. Now, and then we can build. All right? So please come out, come to the Housing Justice Coalition meetings, right? We're doing it online, trying to be hybrid, but we gotta meet together so we can be really solution focused, all right?
All right, that's it from me. My name's James. I've been here for about a month, but I look forward to helping
And he's a proud boomerang. When he interviewed, he said, "No, I gotta come back here and do the shit." I said, "Come on, heal then. All right with it." All right, listen, real quick. Share safety and trust was really Fred's idea, no. Fred was a big person who did the work and held the work. Stan held the work.
Yes.
Who else held the work when we first started this work? We're mobilizing against what? Speak up.
Too long ago to remember.
Patricia.
Patricia Miller, right? That was over 10 years ago.
That was a long time.
I think they were focusing on decreasing homicide rates. All right. Community policing,
Yeah.
right? I think we got it up and running over there in Sarah Vista, the station. Who advocated for that?
Jason, it's in the making.
It's
right,
in the
Jason?
making, but I'm saying prior to that.
Me.
Okay.
I've been asking
All
for many, many years.
You know the history. All right. We thank Mr. Vice Mayor Lee for pushing.
Yes,
Pushing
yes,
on
thank
people.
you.
Appreciate that for carrying your community like that. But we're looking at the historical indicators again. Homicide a problem. They don't got nowhere to go. We got to build system. Who's utilizing the Boys and Girls Club of Sarah Vista? Who's using that community center? Who's up in there? Bringing the services. Boom. We got Aspire School, that's fine. Y'all didn't find your way back where they shooting. You can't run the other way. All right. So in order to do the work, this was an actual picture. It's my auntie. She's beautiful. Smile, she glowing. We had a healing the healers. Y'all was traumatized and y'all was traumatizing other people. Y'all needed to chill and behavioral health paired with us to provide a safe space for y'all. And we had a healing circle. We had healing by the bowls. We had massages. We allowed y'all to release the pain that y'all have been carrying for your community. Counseling was open up for y'all. It's quiet in here. Y'all deserve it.
Yes.
That has to be transformative on how we also shape the community. That was a picture from that. That was me in the healing circle. We said around that, East Bay Children Alliance came down and they did that. They've been teaching us trauma-informed curriculum on how to teach in our schools systems, on how to treat the children, to be aware of what trauma looked like when mom and dad is tripping at home. We got that in this coalition. How are we working together, right? So Diane Medina, it was actually launched with, by Kimberly Wormsley as an initiative while she was a senior project coordinator here. And Diane Medina with Dignity Health came in. And we went after funding and we certified people to go teach this curriculum. And it's still being done. And we do it we're doing public health. Third week, really teaching them about how to handle our people. When Black mothers come in and say they're in pain, believe them. Don't offer them a can of milk. Offer them a lactation. Write that script for a lactation specialist. Right? We're teaching our people how to advocate for our people. Go for it. And that's community health workers. You know, they pushed that new term on us, but we've been doing that for years historically. Taking care of our people. Now, you can build Medi-Cal for it. We're teaching economic development in that through the United Way. Pay attention, right? Pay attention. This is something we can build on. Parks activation, listen, boom. When the community is mad, they gonna speak. Who's listening, right? Okay. We started off like, okay, we need the parks is towed down on the south side.
Oh, yeah.
What we doing? Where's the funding for it? For years, we couldn't get no funding. We brought out federal grant writers. Trust for Public Land is our federal grant writers. They were rooted out of the Black Panther Party to go get land somebody's family acquired, and when the last living ancestor died, go get that land to bring it back to the people. They did an amazing work in Atlanta, Georgia, historical Black neighborhood where Martin Luther King had his first house. And we went down there and we saw the money that they had put and reinvested in that. And they went many times to the city of Stockton with housing justice, found federal grants. That money was not applied. That push to get that money was not applied or connected. And we've been seeing the same thing in housing, okay? So hopefully you all, again, I'm gonna reiterate because some of y'all came in late. When you have questions, this is sparking ideas for when Vice Mayor Lee come up here. Know how to speak about the issue
Yes.
as an economic issue. Because now it's very high competition for funding. And a lot of us need to sustain our work. If CBOs want to sustain the work for the people, you have to strategize collectively. And RSSC is the perfect time for that. Be mindful how we work together right now.
That's right, and Parks is a great example.
And Parks is one of those, right?
Yes.
So they removed the kind of like the money, and they've had a lot of misinformation about federal money right now for community backbones and organizations. People are halting their work. People are scared to say equity. People are scared to say certain things. We know if we have good parks, we have good lighting, we have good accessories in those parks, people are more able to be outside in a space that they can heal.
Yeah.
That's why we have parks activation. We can run programming in our parks like we used to in the 80s and the 90s here in Stockton through the Parks Recreation Department. It was very CBO related. Everybody knew everybody. We at least had nightball until midnight. I kept a lot of the teens out or off too. But we have to have trusted messengers that are there too. That's parks activation in those green spaces. All right?
So what do we do with Parks activation? So we organize residents and youth, and our Youth Advisory Council is gonna do this, to advocate for more investments in our community parks. We've talked a couple times about this handball initiative, so we did this mural over here. I think the next photo has it here. And part of that process was engaging with handball players, and they came and did a tournament at the big launch event that we had in 2024 for the mural. And just got so excited about that court being restored and being a part of that mural and restoring the court that we want to continue to work with them. So we're going to work with them to assess the status. What does each of these 15 handball courts in Stockton actually look like? Which ones are getting repaired? Which ones are not? And how can we get more investment and attention in them and tell the story of handball in Stockton? For those who grew up here, did anyone play handball? I see one. Yep.
Okay.
And especially among our Latino Chicano community around the whole city, handball is really important. Young and old coming together, doing a physical activity outside in their community. It's incredibly positive. So we do park beautification days and resource fairs and other events like movie nights in parks. And we're part of bringing resident voice into the community health needs assessment and community health improvement plan. So we talked about the mural. More than 40 high school students helped to paint that mural, by the way. And it was a local firm that did the design, helped us with the design and painting.
Why
And ran it.
we would like to run over that.
Okay.
Our practice since I came in as executive director was use directly local. And we are very intentional how we spend our grant dollars
That's right.
in South Stockton. We're very intentional. So we found vendors, we found all different levels of vendors. We've also been supporting with connecting them to chambers to get them real stabilized, get their paperwork in order, so we could build that infrastructure, that workforce development piece too, right? And so with our parks activation list, this is the list,
We have a lot of partners.
and we will share this with anybody.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Um,
Fanny, come on.
come on, Rafani.
So Fanny is our community engagement coordinator, and we'll let her talk about the work that she does.
All
What
right,
she
hello.
leads.
All right, hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm Rafani Chan. I am RSSC's community outreach project coordinator. So for what is community engagement related to RSSC? So three main important things are building rapport and public presence. Just because of the fact that last few years and even within the last decade, there's been so much like distrust, isolation due to, for instance, the pandemic is a huge one, right? Last 5 years has been impacted us physically, and that has impacted us mentally, has impacted us in so many other ways, economically and even governmental too. And then and the second point is that we also need opportunities for facilitation, so opportunities where people can sort of have discussions, just like what we're having here in this sort of event that we're having today, just to have that feedback between organizations and with the public as well, so we can facilitate that sort of discourse and conversation so that there is more of that trust that can be built between each other. And then the final one is, of course, it's very paramount to what RSSC does, because we are a coalition. We rely on our partners, such as all of you in this room, and of course with the public as well, to basically facilitate the work that we do as well. So what exactly is community engagement? As I mentioned in the first slide, there are basically 4 related points to this. So the first one is two-way communication. That relies just not on us talking about like what we do and the things that we want to do, but we also want to get input from the community, from the public, to get their feedback, to get their critiques, to get their questions, commentary, and to make sure we get that conversation going, once we get that, what does that mean once we have that information from both sides? That then now connects to building partnerships and relationships, making it so that information that the local community has is something that we treat on equal value. There is so much like long-term information that is available in this community, in South Stockton, with the elders, with their information, their knowledge. All that information needs to be treated equally, or even higher, depending on what the need is. This need is not just related to what organizations want to do, but it's also paramount to what sort of goals we want to do for each and every one of our project areas. And then third one is, of course, decision making, sharing that aspect of things, that when we make events in the future, like all these events need to take into account like what people need, what people want in their communities, and sharing that sort of creative support and action between us, community and organizations. And finally, empowerment. After building all these 3 different aspects involved, now creates the capacity for individuals in their own communities to basically facilitate their own like problem solving, their own advocacy for themselves. They now have their own voice. And why does this all matter at the end of the day? It's because, as I mentioned on the first slide, of societal divisions and distrust within systems that provide us aid and resources, and also to also create greater transparency in our systems that we rely on, including government, including city, including other CBOs. And finally, problem solving as well, and to create that transformative change as a whole thing. And then very quick little summary, just some statistics we've done here. A lot of supplies we've gotten, like Narcan kits, fentanyl test strips, COVID tests we've got, a lot of the stuff that we share out at evening events. We've done so many events over the last like year and a half, 70 something events over time. And all our staff here, we have done tabling, been at all these different events. And a lot of the supplies we've gotten from a lot of a lot of partners here as well, and we've got resources from Prevail as well. We've got resources from public health services, the county public health services as well, and health services as well generally. So
Thank you,
there you
Rafani.
go.
I have to get you on time. You did wonderful. I was like, no, I'm not a slave. We're not carrying all of this. We had the Civic Spark Fellows come in, and I retained one of them. I was like, no, you want to work in this community? Come on. I'm gonna give you a full-time job. You're gonna be an outreach coordinator. You're gonna learn this community, and you're gonna spearhead. And this is teaching the generation, right? So that pathway. So that's another partnership we have with Civic Spark. We would like to expand on putting Civic Sparks in each of your programs. Okay, that's what the coalition wants to do. I'm gonna give it over finally to our comms director. He gonna spit his game in 2 minutes because he's good like that. We gonna stretch, boom boom, and shake someone to your left or right because I'm Kojic. Stop playing with me.
Okay.
You gotta get to know your neighbor, and then we're gonna go into Vice Mayor Lee, and you guys are gonna break out and critically think and ask and get that dialogue going. All right? Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Leo Martinez. I'm the Communications and Digital Storyteller Director. Narratives and digital storytelling are essential because they shape how we understand the world, how we connect with others, and how we make sense of our own experiences. It transcends space and time, and it helps to bring a multitude of perspectives across cultures and generations. In 2023, we launched our ongoing docuseries, Transcending the Concrete, which highlighted the stories of our community leaders, nonprofit organizations, and residents. We also highlighted their fight for resilience, diversity, and equity. We did this through video and photography documentation. Some of the leaders that we've highlighted have been, folks like Irene Kalindlin, who is the Community Development Director for the Manila Rising, who in the past has helped launch the health and environmental justice at Fathers and Families San Joaquin. She has also been pivotal in launching the Green Line Institute's Health Equity program at RSSC. And another leader we've highlighted has been Gerald Arnett, Executive Director for the Indigenous Peoples Adjustments Program, who continues to help our Native American communities through aftercare services like housing, job trainings, and cultural gatherings. So if anybody would like to participate in our docuseries, would like to be highlighted, or you know anybody that needs to be highlighted, whether it's a resident, community leader, or nonprofit organization, please come to me after the event or visit our link tree on our Instagram. And you'll be redirected to that docuseries. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, so the links are in the presentation, but they're also on our website. If you want to watch these videos, I really highly encourage you to do that. And just lastly, photo of all of our staff, many of whom are here today to present to you, and our board of directors, including Fred, who's here in the room.
Check out those photos. Hold on, go back. The photo, I didn't see that Photoshop. Hold on. I don't know what I was doing with that red hair. I was trying to express myself. I use comedy to break y'all up, right? Let's not be serious, but yeah, that's us. One of the things we're trying to change is like how we come. Right? We're coming authentic, we're coming real, we're connected to the people. It look more roots on the ground, boots on the ground, grounded in the roots. That's because we gotta be there. We gotta be there. Gotta be on the ground. Follow us, y'all. Y'all part of the coalition. We're very specific on the people who are actually doing the work on the south side of the year. Follow us. Get your updates. We put funding, RFPs. We'll be putting trainings in there, free conventions y'all can go to. All right, that's what the coalition does for you. We also have incentives for you that we're building now, all right? You got everything?
Yeah.
All right, now, here we go. I was serious about this exercise. Y'all ready? We're gonna transition real good. So let's stand up to our feet. We can pause the recording for this, Brother Leo.
Oh, I am in the recording.
Pause the recording. Some people
Hello,
can't
somebody.
get to
Live on Instagram.
their ankles.
We're live on Instagram. They're gonna be like,
So if you can't get down to your ankles, don't worry.
What you think?
Pattern clapping, do that restorative stuff in the schools, like, you can't be yelling at the kids. You don't know what you're gonna get nowadays, so they do like a little clap. Can you snap with me? Are you listening? Come on, y'all. All right, come on. All right, comedy. Let's get this going. Okay, Jason Wiener is going to be your facilitator.
That's right.
We are gonna be running around. We're gonna be parking lot. Any of your thoughts, we need to grab. You wanna ask while he's speaking and talking, y'all going back and forth. We're making this a work group. This man is very busy.
Yes,
Y'all
he
busy.
is.
We love y'all. So we honor y'all time. Let's get some work done out of this. All right?
Thank you. Yeah, so we're gonna
Post-its.
welcome the vice mayor up here in just one quick sec. But just to say, if you don't have post-its and you want them, we'll be happy to hand some to you. And we just want to ask everybody to give others the respect to fully ask their questions and to hear the answers, and to give Vice Mayor Lee the respect for fully answering as well. And so you can raise your hand, you can use the sticky notes, and we'll call on people one at a time and read some of those notes. I know there's a couple already up there. So with that, welcome them up, give them a chance to get it started.
Alright, so I don't know how a vice mayor is supposed to dress. I don't know how a vice mayor is supposed to act. I don't know what a vice. Hey, how are you? How a vice mayor is supposed to be a vice mayor. All I know how to be is Jason. And I cannot stand salad noise when I'm talking because I get distracted easily, just so you know. I am going to be Jason. Whether you like me, don't like me, whether you respect me or not, that will be determined on how I spend my time, because I don't spend my time in spaces of toxicity, negativity, doubt, apathy, or anything else. But I do understand there's like a rich history on how we got here. I had a meeting earlier with all the city leaders, not the elected leaders, the city staff from different departments on what we're doing in Stockton, what we're doing in District 6 specifically, right? Somebody asked me earlier, they don't know how, they said, Georgia said, I don't know how you do it with your time, because I am all over the place with my career and with my commitment to the city. But I'll tell you how I do it. It's really about investing time in spaces that move the goals forward, right? I don't spend a lot of personal time with friends as much anymore, but I spend more time with my therapist now that I've been elected, because you all are doing the real work, and you're out there and you see the challenges that are in front of us. Our officers see it, our community leaders see it, our parents are seeing it with their children. And now being in this role, I will tell you, the lenses that I'm looking at everything is very different. You know, when you're running on a campaign and you're saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. When you get in that position, it's real now, right? You have to really do it. And when you get in, you start to go, oh, wait, hold on, but why are we doing this way? Or why aren't we investing in this community over here? Or why did we give all the money to this group who's not even doing the work in this area that they're supposed to? So I've learned a lot, and I'm learning a lot. I want to say, first of all, to RC and the group, Reinvent Self-Stocking, thank you for allowing me to speak, because these are the meetings that are important and an important use of my time, because you're doing the work. You're actually out there in the community every single day. I will tell you, one of the things that we have done in coming into this new role as a group is we have disrupted the system. And I don't want to not talk about it because it is the elephant in the room. Business as usual is not being done business as usual. You cannot have change happen and be doing the same thing over and over and thinking it's going to change. That's actually the definition of insanity. And I think that the way that the city was functioning before we got elected was insane. I think there's been a lot of investment in individuals and less investment in community. We want to shift that because I am a temporary placeholder. I am not going to be here forever. I may be here for 4, well, I'm going to be here for 4 years. I may be here for 4, I may be here for 8. I don't know what the future is going to hold because I'm not looking at this as a career path. I'm not looking at this as a pathway to become the governor or the president or a senator. I'm looking at what can little old Jason, who grew up on South Scrivener, do to make South Scrivener better in 4 years or 8 years, even though I have a 10-year plan. What can little Jason do with all of his relationships, all of his political will, all of his passion, all of his vision to find people who share that vision to get us in a better place in 4, 8, 10 years than we are today? How can we disrupt the system in a way that doesn't make us fall off the tracks, but actually put us back on the tracks? And officers have been in some meetings with me and they'll tell you, the way I talk here, the way I talk on the dais, the way I talk in those rooms. I went on Facebook and I said, we're going to sue Caltrans if they don't clean up our freeways. What did that do? That led us into a meeting with Caltrans. We're now Caltrans and the CHP and our police department in our city are now talking about how we can be allowed to do our jobs, how we can partner better and have our partners do their jobs. You know, we're figuring out as a city, we're not getting enough property taxes from the county. They're getting 80%, we're getting 20%. How do we get our fair share? And the one thing that used to annoy me when I was on the other side of the dais was people would come to City Hall and spend more time talking about a city manager, more time talking about a city official, more time talking about things that don't matter, when as much as parents burying their children, police officer, the narrative around our police community, being caught up with the national conversation around what police are when I know they're breaking their necks to figure out how to police more effectively and in partnership with our community, how money was being given out to people, but we don't know how the money get to that person and not this person. So I'm telling you, we had to disrupt the system because the thing that matters are the things that last, and that is going to be those people that are sitting in the room doing the work of our community, and not politicking plays and who likes this person, don't like this person. I can promise you right now, by the time I leave office, there's going to be some people that like me. There's going to be some people that don't like me. But at the end of the day, what I want is that the work and the efforts that I put forth leave my community in a better place when I'm gone. So that's all that matters. I'm not here. I don't go to crab feeds as much. I've been to one, and it was for the firefighters because they're public safety. I don't go to a lot of events. I did go to the promotion event for the police department the other day because they're public safety. I will go to events in the community where I feel like my presence and my time will help. I don't want to be there just for photos and cutting ribbons because, you know, I already have a pretty cool job and already earned all of that. I want to show you something that I will make available to you. I came into this not as an entertainer because that is my day job, of course, but I came into this as sort of how I approach the work at the union, right? How do I approach this work unless I know what is happening? So the first thing I did was I asked staff to put together a District 6 development overview. I'll provide this to you. This is literally everything happening in District 6 right now, from the crime reports to permits that are out there, people, what they're building, how we're zoned, what our general plan is, and all of that is in here. In fact, the work that Stan is doing over there on Airport 8th, which is a passion project that I want to be a part of, it's all in here. So I'll share this for you to give to our community partners. And the reason why I did this was I wanted to see what work is happening right now. Like, just give me a snapshot of what's happening. Let me see what the future plans are. And what I looked at just in looking through this is there's a lot of warehouses coming, which is great in some regard, right? But then now we get into the weeds. What are the environmental protections? What are the job growth? How are we building a community around that? What is the residential development plan? With the residential development partners? Who's looking at bringing big box stores to Western Ranch? What does our amenities look like? How can we build restaurants? What does our strip mall, so all these questions are happening, but at the table isn't just city staff, it's also all the commissioners I've appointed. And then the plan from that is to then engage our partners and have a very broad district forum where our staff come down along with other elected officials to engage the community on what their vision for the district is, right? And then once we have that plan, then I'll be able to help give direction to staff on the direction that we go. And then the last thing I'll say is what I've just discovered, if you can see and go back and look at some of our council meetings and even our committee meetings, transparency is big to me, right? Let me back up a little bit. Transparency, truth, and trust. Those were the 3 T's that I talked about on my campaign. As soon as I got elected, I saw the shift in narratives to go from like hope to they ain't gonna do nothing just like everybody else. It's almost like it's programmed in everybody's mind to just doubt. Yeah. What I'm trying to do is work with community partners to shift that narrative because I understand how we got here. And I'm not gonna bash the person that was in this seat before me. I'm not gonna bash the person that was in the seat before them because they had their time, they did what they did. I wanna focus on what we do to move forward. And I've reached out to Michael Tubbs to see how we can talk about what he started, where the gap may have fallen off from when he left to now, and how we build a bridge to get him the resources, because he was great at figuring out how to get resources for the community. So we have to figure out how we get those resources, but then we have to make sure they stay here when I leave, because the community is still gonna be here when I'm gone. But the thing that we've done in disrupting the system, because when we talk about in that presentation about the lack of investment in poverty-stricken communities, I'll tell you a conversation that I had with somebody that I have built a relationship with, that I have an immense amount of respect for, but may not necessarily have the same lived experience as all of us, and that's Fritz Groupie. I went to Fritz's house and I've had conversations with Fritz about what the South Side experience is. Unless you can stand at South Square Market or walk through Sierra Vista at night, or walk from South Square Market to Sierra Vista at night, or walk from South Square Market to where the old Kmart building would be at night. First of all, it's too dark. Second of all, will you feel the same way you would feel walking through the parking lot at Lincoln Center? If the answer is no, then we know we're not getting a one-stop experience. So how do we get a walkable community, a safer community? And I will say, since I've been here, I have seen from the campaign trail to now the relationship with policing in Western Ranch and the engagement there. Now starting the engagement with the police department in Sierra Vista. The substations that I ordered to be put in Southeast Stockton and Western Ranch, the evaluation of OVP and how we're doing that, taking public safety on is my passion. So getting heavily involved in what we're doing from a public safety standpoint. The audit committee meeting we just had the other day, where we revealed 7 out of 11 of our facilities are upside down, and we're spending over $3.5 million in taxpayer money just to keep the lights on in our facilities after the last administration forced through a contract to extend our partnership for 5 years. The business is upside down and not making sense, and the community is not as involved, engaged, or educated. So we're trying to get more of the community involved with how we're doing what we're doing, how the city is functioning, and how we need to streamline services, make sure that permitting processes are expedited, people can do business in the city, and more importantly, people feel like they're getting the return on their taxpayer dollar. So I just wanted to come here today to take questions, see everybody, see the work that's happening. I mean, that was a great presentation, and figure out ways to support the work that's being done.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'd like to start with one of the questions that someone posted while we were speaking earlier. Oftentimes we consider food interventions and food deserts that bring together corner stores and small businesses. But when residents can't get to those due to gun violence and lack of neighborhood safety, both the interventions and trust decline. So what can you do to address those kind of systemic issues?
Okay, I'm glad that, I'm gonna start from the end of what you said and work my way back. Systemic issues. I said, again, during the campaign trail, and everything I said from if you had anything to do, anything wrong with the money, you're going to jail, all that, people thought I was just being an entertainer. I'm really serious about it. And if you go back and watch the last audit committee meeting, you'll see me addressing some of the financial errors that we've seen happen at City Hall with hundreds of thousands of dollars in payroll errors. I mean, just go back and watch the video. I'm gonna post it on Facebook later. Systemic oppression is something that I talked about. I really believe the South Stockton has been a victim of strategic oppression. And when I say strategic, I mean intentional. When you talk about it being an opportunity zone, it didn't, that's what they call it, correct?
The promise zone and then
Okay,
opportunity zone.
it's the
later.
broken promise zone. District 6 is the broken promise zone. The promise zone that Obama came up with, that we didn't get that actually, correct? So we've called it that, but for all intents and purposes of funding and giving it the attention that it was designed, that promise zone plan, we didn't get that. So we've zoned it, we know it, but guess what? City of Stockton has known that it's been the promise zone for decades, right? It's strategically divided. You have Western Ranch that wants to be its own city. You have Southeast Stockton that has its own issues, and then you have the Martin Luther King area and everything over there south of Charter, feeling disconnected from both sides. So there's really no connection outside of maybe the work that the Reinvent South Stockton Coalition is doing, but in terms of a resident council that actually brings the community, not just system partners, but the community together to focus on gentrification happening in Sierra Vista that we caught and jumped on, or what's happening related to, the crime that's happening between neighborhood blocks that Nightingale right here and Scrivener Street, right around the corner from each other, where we used to fight it out, maybe not get along, but we didn't go kill each other and then wave guns on the block and say, we're gonna kill you, and then literally shoot anybody that's walking on the block. Like that just wasn't the mentality then. But the strategic oppression of allowing the decline of the community to get there is because the individuals, in my opinion, just so far from my assessment, is that there's just been a lack of political will to really call it out and force people to systemically start reinvesting in the community. So if you're a developer that wants to bring a warehouse to South Stockton, your contribution in a $540 million development shouldn't be a $200,000 contribution to the community. It should be far more significant than that. But you got to have the political will to have people, to hold people to the fire. So there is a shift now in leadership in terms of conversations that we are having with people. And those conversations are going to be very uncomfortable, but necessary, because if you look at the asthma rates, if you look at all the environmental reports that report out the decline in life expectancy for a Southside resident in comparison to a Northside resident, the evidence is right there in front of you. So how do we address that? So systemically, me and my counterparts, what I say to all of them is, if you care about the life of a Black and brown kid for my district, then that's all going to be present in your voting, how we vote, right? The second part, I'm going to come to. The second part is, let's talk about reinventing South Stockton. You all are getting ready to host an event with Brando Villapudua. He is a lazy council person who's allowed his district to look as filthy as it ever has. District 5, which is a neighboring district, which is right there, which is a part of your organization's map, has a leader sleep at the wheel. So part of your job is holding us accountable as elected officials, right? When I come down here and I tell you what I tell you, if I tell the police I'm going to do something, if I tell Pastor Trina I'm going to do something, hold me accountable to what I tell you I'm going to do, and don't take your foot off my neck. That is the way that accountability works. So I love to be held accountable because I'm going to hold other people accountable. But when it comes to the South Side, the challenge for me is, I could be standing right here, he could be standing right there. This is my district, that is somebody else's district. But guess what? Your kids are going to walk by these districts and just think of the South Side being one experience. We're working collectively, those of us that have the political will, to turn the systemic oppression around, to make sure that our public works department is cleaning up the neighborhood. I don't know if you've seen in District 6 in the South Side, Southeast Western Ranch area, but the illegal dumping has been an issue. People just throwing trash because they have no respect for their community and they think our code enforcement officers are their janitorial service. You know what we did? We called the sheriff. I got the sheriff on the phone. I got the police chief on the phone. I got the public works director and the city manager. We did this call. And in that week, we picked up over 105 tons of trash. There shouldn't be 105 tons of trash on the ground. So when we think about the community, it's less about what is the city going to do to stop people from dumping trash. It's like, what are you gonna do to talk to your neighbor about finding a garbage can or going and dumping the shit where it goes and not waiting for the city to come clean the shit up? Sorry, Pastor Trina, I know you're connected to God. I am who I am, I'm sorry. But it's those things. I'm driving down the street, I hopped out and walked in Family Dollar Store and pulled the manager outside and said, if you don't go clean that up, we're gonna cite you, so you're gonna get cited so much you're not even gonna wanna come to work. Or you're gonna invest in a security guard that actually polices your parking lot, so that way I don't have to call our police department, who should be out catching murderers, not trying to run around and tell you to get a shovel and clean up trash. But those conversations are happening, but the moratorium on smoke shops. We talk about strategic oppression. What District 1 would never allow the amount of smoke shops and liquor stores to be surrounding their kids' schools as we've allowed it to happen in District 6. That's why I put a moratorium on smoke shops, and that's why we're working towards, seeing a decline in those, to the point that if they lose their license, they don't get it back. If they move their smoke shop, they lose their license. I mean, it's gonna be so complicated to have that type of business that I think they would reconsider their investment in our kids' community.
Thank you,
Our
Vice
city.
Mayor. I appreciate you. And I want to pause because there's a lot of information. And again, this is a back and forth facilitation we're having, right? So the Vice Mayor is just not also, summarizing what he's been doing. I also would like for us to summarize what we've been doing. Because we've been also wanting for years to work hand in hand with the city and get more funding to the stuff that we know is working on the ground, we're trying to expand on. And we've been trying to be heard, a lot of us in here, to the city. So we appreciate your love, we appreciate your energy that you got us. We appreciate your tenacity, but we wanna be a part of that. We want you to call us, any of us in here. We wanna have conversations with you. We're the humanistic face to a lot of the political stuff that went on for years. And we just wanna be heard and connected. And we wanna be in that shared work. So when you build community like that, when you going after 8 years? He's like, I'm not gonna tell you, but when you're going after 8 years, it's an infrastructure that's built. That's all I'm saying.
The
That's
infrastructure,
what we're trying to get
the
today.
infrastructure for the 10-year plan is being built now. The leaders I'm identifying are the leaders to take on the work after I leave, whether that's in 4 or 8. I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say I'm gonna be here till 8, I'm gonna be here till 10, I'm gonna go and be, because my plan right now is to set the 10-year plan today. And then be very intentional about how I'm building, right? And so again, that's why I'm intentional about where I spend my time. I'm intentional. Don't call me if you have nothing to talk about. Don't call me if you have a plan that's not connected to the heart and vein of the whole plan. Because there are other systemic challenges in the community that go beyond the city. There's a lot of CBOs that don't connect with each other. There's a lot of trying to help the same person, but you're not talking. You're not collaborative. I don't think the city should be investing in any organization that has its own plan that is not connected to the heart or root of the whole plan. And the reason why I say that is because the work you're doing, the presentation I just saw, in looking holistically at how we partner and how we come together, it reminded me of when I was at the union and we had Kaiser Permanente at the table. As a union, there were 33 of us, but we had to focus on one thing, and that was how do we improve the quality care to the patient? The patient was our focus. All of the work and how we address it had to serve better patient experience. So my staff are burnt out. Well, we have to address staff burnout because they're delivering quality care. Well, we have to talk about access. Well, if the patient can't access the service or the medication, then they're not able to get healthy. So our approach was always about how do we help serve the patient, but we couldn't do that as a department. We had to do that as a whole entity and in a whole partnership with unions. And so again, I don't know how we've done business in the past, how you've not been supported, what support looks like, because different people have different expectations. But when I'm now looking at the finances and how we've invested here or there, my question's always going to be, our question's always going to be, is what is the ROI? What is the ROI? And as we address some of the systemic challenges, when we get into public safety, it's not just more police, it's community police, and it's accountability of our parents. Why do you have a 13-year-old that just killed a 17-year-old? How that happened? Where are the parents? It's not all in lack of policing and cameras, because we're going to get all that. But where your kid at 13 years old out in the streets with guns killing people? And be able to have real conversations when we talk about that. How do we partner and invest in communities that don't have youth centers, that don't have a youth advocacy group that I just saw when we're starting a youth commission where the youth can actually drive the work that we're doing in servicing young people. And then the last thing I'll say before I take more questions, because I do want it to be interactive, is I just met with the county office head where I said the city can donate the arena, but how are you gonna fill it up with kids so we can start getting in their minds about this new direction that we wanna go, where we can show that, hey, I can be cool and hang out with Rihanna on the weekend, but I can also sit down with the police chief and the police to figure out how we stop you from killing each other. And those that want to stop killing each other, we're going to help you and we're going to invest in you. And there's those that won't, we're going to wage a war on you. Because guess what? Gang members don't even want to die. Some people need to get the pathway to get out of their lifestyle. They need the resource to get out of their lifestyle. AB 617. Anybody know what that is? Yes or no? AB 617 right now is a whole bill that gets our port down in our port that holds them accountable to providing job opportunities for disenfranchised communities. So they're not even getting deeper into our communities to give jobs to folks where they get incentivized to give jobs to people from District 6, District 5. So I'm at the port talking to them about how do we go out into our communities and get people who don't have nothing to live for, don't have a job, and get them the job. So they needed some incentives, so I'm gonna have lunch with them to do that. My point is that there's a lot of work that's going to happen, but it's going to take the work that RC and all of you are doing to make it real.
So let's talk about that. So maybe somebody here wants to talk about the work you're doing in the community and what you would need. Sorry. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Vice Mayor, for coming out and spending the time with us all today. My name's Elazar Abraham. I work with Hatch Workshop in District 5, 40 South Union Street. I'm also involved with some other arts organizations here around town, other initiatives. So the question I have simply is, have you identified any goals or strategies related to developing the local creative economy?
Specifically in what area?
The creative
Are
economy.
you talking about creative like arts or?
Yeah, and arts, music, acting. It's there's terminology at the state level regarding the creative economy. So I'm using the words that the state is using. You know, we do wood shop, metal shop, ceramics. We support musicians and actors and poets. There's a lot of creative people here, and are there strategies that you've been able to identify for sort of galvanizing those various constituent groups together?
Okay, so let me first say no. I want to get there, but let me tell you, like, campaign Jason and then like Vice Mayor Jason, right? And by the way, titles don't determine leadership, right? Actions do.
Amen.
Okay, campaign Jason, and this is Jason who had a condo on the beach in Miami, who had a house in the hills in LA, who lived in New York, who traveled the whole world, who's seen all the creative arts, who is in the creative arts industry, right? Coming in with all these fresh ideas. You get here, and then it's like first of all, there's District 6 and District 5 is food desert communities, right? So like there's not even proper nourishment right now happening to our young people and our families. That's number one. 2, the faith-based community, divided as hell. And you know what? Pastor Trina will tell you, she's gonna shake her head, yes. If your faith-based community ain't on the same page, you got problems. Because they're supposed to be praising and bringing people closer to God, but the churches right now, there's some like what Pastor Trina's doing, Pastor Curtis, Pastor Bishop Bullock, Bishop Docker, there's some really good faith-based leaders here. Then we know that there's faith-based groups that are divided, am I right? Okay, well, we're gonna get that together because I'm gonna pull them together. Get it to your hand. Listen to the mythology, right? Methodology, not the mythology. So I get in here with the idea like, damn, I talked to Babyface. He wants to create a music program. He's going to work with his partners to donate instruments to our students, and we're going to do that. We're going to build this program. Can't even get there when you get off the freeway. Freeway's trash and dirty, homeless. Then you get over here, and then crime is crazy. 13-year-old is still a 17-year-old. We have to, if you think about it as a patient, right? Triaging our city, we have to stop the hemorrhaging. Because there's blood, like the patient, the city is dying, right? In many ways, it's full of life inside, but like there's so much blood happening from so many different wounds that until we stop the bleeding, the hemorrhaging, we're not going to be able to survive. So one, we're going through priority setting when we start to look at the priorities. So youth, investing in youth, investing in the arts, restoring the narrative that Stockton is more than this dangerous city, because we know that there's danger everywhere. But along with being a food desert community, we're also a news desert community, right? Where everybody looks at either 209 Times, Stocktonia, And then even then just don't know what's going on, and they figure it out and they run with the narrative that everything is doom and gloom when it's not. So the triage is, how are we addressing our homelessness? How are we addressing in a real way, not a conversational way, in a real way where we start to see the decline of the homeless rate, not the increase that we've seen over the last 2 years. It's doubled. How do we partner with our county so that way we're not looking at it just as a city where there's county pockets? How are we looking at our community holistically, and how are we getting our resources to help invest in infrastructure, which is why we just approved over $2 million to turn on all the lights in the city so we can start to light it up. If you drive down the underpass on Charterway, the lights are on now, which is crazy because people said that they forgot there were even lights because it's been so dark. How do we clean it up so people want to come and invest? And once we can triage, after we've triaged and we've started like suturing some of these wounds and stopping the bleeding, then we get to something that I'm passionate about. How do we sell the arena to a partner who can reroute tourists here and get our entertainment community functioning? How can we invest in, or what do those creative art programs look like so that way our kids like me who went to the fairgrounds and met Queen Latifah and got inspired, get inspired to unlock their dreams and create their own pathway? How do we make young people a priority, right? Because right now, a lot of them are interested in the arts, but they're listening to the rap music that's making them go out and shoot their friends. I don't know if that's a private partnership to develop a music studio or to develop areas where the creative arts can come alive. But there are ideas. Are we focusing on them right now? No, because right now we're trying to stop the bleeding. If that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Of course.
James.
Oh, perfect. Hello, Vice Mayor James Hill, Reinvent South Stockton Coalition. So when we look at the governor's proposed budget, right, for this upcoming year, we see that there's no new allocations for housing and homelessness programs. Actually, there's a lot of tight restrictions too, right? So there's results-based outcomes for money that's going to housing. So given that, and then given that only the Lord knows what's happening with the federal budget, right? What is your plan or ideas to ensure that Stockton has adequate and affordable housing for all its residents?
Yeah. Well, let me say this. It's even bigger than that, right? Okay. One, Los Angeles. I know we hear the wildfires, we see it on social media, and it's, oh my God, LA's on fire. Let me tell you how bad it was. Think about it, and think about all of Spanos, west, east, all of Spanos just burned down to the entire ground. Every school, so kids displaced, every store, everything just burned down. Pacific Palisades, where the rich of the rich, $30, $50, $80 million, $100 million homes burned to the ground, completely gone. $250 billion in damage, right? The state's priorities now have shifted to Los Angeles, just in the infrastructure and all that, because we know the Olympics, if you think about the state as a business, right? The Olympics are coming. So they're trying to fast track getting LA stable. And that's just one community. Malibu partially burned down, and there were other fires, whatever. And, I work down there, so I see it. It's real. So I think the state was already financially in this interesting place, but now there's even more interesting conversations going on. But me and Josh Harder, we met last week, and I'm trying to identify where the state money is for us to even look at where we can get our fair share. We're talking about different things that we want to do here. I don't want to touch the federal conversation because you can just go on Instagram right now and see they're probably approving straws or some crazy thing that's not getting to the closer position of reducing the price of eggs or even finding eggs, right? We are going to DC in a couple months to start conversations and advocacy for what we need here, but housing is a priority, and I got a text from the Housing Authority that they wanted me to talk about that. I don't have an assessment. What I will say is that me and the mayor talked about creating a director just for housing and homelessness, because right now homelessness and housing is under economic development. Whereas I think that there's some touch points there when it comes to building or approving, all that stuff, permits and all that. But as it relates to like narrowing in on the homeless crisis, focus on renter rights, housing challenges. There's no tenant protections. The people are being priced out of their homes. People who have a job but just can't keep up with the market rate of housing with their job. It is crazy. So I went on Facebook and I said, we need to explore rent stabilization. When I tell you the people who oppose people like me came out of nowhere, started calling me a porn king, attacking my character, trying to stop me from getting elected. But I beat him anyway. And so now what I'm looking at is how do we put in renter protections? What does the market rate housing program look like? What is it? What can it be? How do we shift more accountability to our developers who have profited a lot of money in this community on the backs of people who have not benefited as much. And those are hard conversations. So when we talk about systemic oppression and like disrupting the system, part of what we had to come in was say, well, why is it that the city council members can't go and talk to police, can't go talk to fire, can't go talk to planning? Well, the way they kept slaves enslaved was they took their books from them and didn't let them get educated. Well, I came back and gave all the slaves their books back, and now we're out meeting and finding out where the challenges are. And one of them, when it comes to housing and homeless, is that we don't have a person just really focus on how to fix this housing crisis that we have here. But it is something on the mayor's list as a target, and I'm supporting it.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing,
Oh, sure.
slumlord accountability.
Yes.
Not
You gotta
even-
go no more. You don't even have to say
Okay,
nothing else, you
okay,
know?
okay, no.
We know exactly what you're talking about.
I think
Or understand.
Brother have ideas on how to do that too.
I ain't gonna say nothing else.
So also in the nitty gritty, so we talked about parks earlier in our presentation. One of the things we hear a lot is you can't use the restroom in the park. Why you can't be there? You can't do your family party. And so one person wrote up restroom upgrades, and they mentioned Brotherhood Park, Peterson Park, but it's not just those. It's so many others.
Yes,
So maybe it's very nitty gritty, but like talk about
sure,
if you have ideas of how to get those restrooms available to people
sure.
in the parks.
I remember during my campaign, and I'm not talking bad about the person, I'm just gonna tell the story, 'cause I'm a storyteller. And the person was like talking about how great McKinley Park was. Those of you who grew up in McKinley Park, you talk about handball. We used to play handball, even though I'm not brown, I'm black. I was out there playing with my brown brothers and sisters. Because handball, that was like a cultural thing, not just at McKinley, but at Brotherhood Park. Brotherhood Park was the park where we used to have my grandmother's annual birthday party, but it was a community event. And so what I'm doing is bringing that back to, we're gonna do an event in her honor starting next year, every year, because that's not on the priority list for all the bigger things we're triaging right now. But we are gonna bring back Maybelle Tanner Day to that park, where it's a community event for our officers to come out, for our fire department to be there, for our kids to come and be free to the community. So that's coming May of 2026. And Brotherhood Park is a park I actually, in my mind, am thinking about how we imagine getting a pool put in that park. Because, you know, I think the kids should learn how to swim and have access to swimming. I've asked for a tour of McKinley Park to make sure that while we are fixing it and upgrading, that the culture's still there, because we had murals of our leaders on the wall. We had a sense of culture there, and it's really important to me that that is there. So they did say they were going to give me a tour and make sure phase 2 that we have the culture there. And then I did ask about Matty Hero Park, and there's, I think, $400,000 that's now put into repairing that park. But I also have to tell you, it pissed me off watching people in the community go light all them fireworks in Matty Hero Park and burn it up. So as much as people get mad at the city, fix, okay, but if we fix it and you turn it into a dump, or we fix it and you burn it down, or we fix it and you, because part of our responsibility is in advocacy is having those hard conversations with our community, then you can't be mad when it looks the way it looks, or people say that, you know, they're not proud of it, because I will say just the amount of money that is going into fixing these lights. If people shoot the lights out or go steal the copper out of it, what do we do? You know? So hard conversations to have. For sure.
I wanted to touch on something. I see Miss George's hand in the back. I'm gonna let her go first, right? And we're probably thinking the same thing.
I was talking about the our parks and our community.
Right.
Because I can drive from South Side to downtown. I see this nice bathroom there, downtown, where they used to call it the Kill Park. And Peterson Park doesn't have a bathroom. Brotherhood Park doesn't have a bathroom. Upgraded restroom. And there's a lot of people in our community and our surrounding community, not only in Sierra Vista, our children and grandchildren uses that park. So I was there the other day, and a kid had to run over to the bushes to use the restroom. And it just broke my heart, because that park should have been open. That restroom should have been open for that child to use that bathroom.
So we appreciate that. We identified it as our parks activation work. And we also talked about the amenities like the lighting, even accessibility of our, we have a lot of disabled children in the area now. With affordable housing, and they couldn't get on the playground to play on the playground. Just stuff like that other northern parks had already thought about and designed and put in, even water features, right? And we've been wanting that. We've been wanting the culture and the sculptors and all that. But then the funding, where's that funding going with the Arts Commission? And is the arts really using an equity lens where they go to Al-Azhar, who also teaches art and people, and we utilize the people in the community to build it? I think that's what we're wanting to hear more from you. Because you have these great ideas that we also have. We want to know, are you or can you be invested in us to heal our community along with you?
Okay, heal our community is, I'm in therapy, so that's broad for me. I don't know each individual's healing experience. What I can say is to the park specific, I know Mario Gardea from the County Supervisors, he just got funding to fix our park bathrooms. That's part of that community forum that we're gonna have. Mario will be there, and that's a question I think for Mario and our parks and our public works folks who will oversee all that work, because I'm not in the weeds of that work. I set policy, I set vision, I give the direction, and I hear from you what our community wants, and then I go back to them and ask the staff. So staff would have to answer that, but Mario Gardea did call me and say that he wants me to work with him on getting the information out about the park funding specifically for bathrooms. So I'll have to get the list of
And
parks.
that is county parks though. That is county park. We're predominantly talking about city parks, and it hasn't really been allocated for reinvestment. Again, I later said about the Trust for Public Land that went several times to try to offer funding for city parks. So county and city parks are in the cuts in the South Stockton area. So that $14 million that they received was supposed to just go towards county parks versus city. And so we really need help in that area. So that's what we're conveying. People will come spend their dollars. Walkability for our children, they will feel safer, right? Heightened emotions that we often see where there's no trees, right? And then really those navigation services that we're providing, our CHWs, to get our individuals off the streets. I want you to know they're in this room, right? So that's the type of work we want to work with the city to build.
So let me tell you one of my pet peeves, just if I can barely, right? I used to hate at the union when people would say, these are my complaints and my concerns, but then they don't show up where those conversations matter. These conversations matter at city council, right? I'll give you a quick example. You all know what Measure A is, right? I know the officers know, but you guys know what Measure A tax is? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, Measure A tax, really quick. They passed the tax, the general fund tax, and they gaslit people into believing that it was going to put 500, 485, whatever the number was, officers on the street to increase public safety over 10 years. That never happened. That then went into a general fund tax that started being spent for a whole bunch of different things. One we just learned yesterday, over $3.5 million to keep our facilities up. Pickleball, I'm gonna get to pickleball in a minute. And then they re-up the bag where for another 10 years, there's more Measure A tax that goes into the general fund, but we're gonna get you public safety, and we are, right? That was what happened before I got here. The reason why I bring that up is because guess what? One night when I went to city council about a young person that was murdered, I was the only person that spoke about the murder. But there were 50 people there to talk about pickleball and getting resources in their park, and guess what? They left that night with $350,000 from the general fund to fund their pickleball. I don't even know what pickleball is. I have nothing against pickleball. It seems like a really good thing that people like, right? But if you talk about this, which is I want my kid to pee in the bathroom in a park, not in the bush. It seems like a reasonable request, right? Come to city council and have that line out the door. Have a unified front to talk about it. Show that it's a priority so that political pressure is there. And I can look and say, do your kids pee in bushes? Because my kids should be, our kids should pee in bushes. Staff, we need to do X, Y, Z. That's how this system works. If you don't show up, then you don't matter. Let me just say right now, you don't show up, you don't matter. So when you live here, all your friends, anybody that has an issue, if you don't show up, you don't matter. You matter to me. You just don't matter to the system that we're talking about. You want to matter to the system? Show up the way the pickleball people do. They had pickleball shirts on. They had their little pickleball bag.
They were dedicated.
What?
It was about 70. One was 72 years old. Talking about I get in there, I get my pickleball, and had
And
a
let me
cue
tell
card.
you something.
Saying their
They left clapping about that pickleball. And you know what I stood there and said? No disrespect to y'all,
Right.
but a kid just got murdered.
Yeah.
Why we ain't outraged about that?
Right.
Where are the 50 people showing up about the kids that are dying. I do want to shout out Officer Hyde, because Officer Hyde was the one that was trying to save the kid that got murdered by the 13-year-old.
Thank you.
And so even in me posting on social media about that instance, everybody started attacking the police when people weren't thinking about the police's lens of how they were dealing with it. So I'm even having to check myself in how I engage, right? We have to be more woke on how we address our needs, because if we come in rooms like this and just talk about it, this is a therapy session. This is not an action planning session. And I'm already in therapy.
Thank you. You say that also.
I
And
sure am.
he picks on me because he's like, RC, we don't live in our trauma.
No, because she
But
calls me
I
and she gets into trauma.
I
and
facilitate. I facilitate with caution. When there's a lot of people and a lot of different energy in the room, that's my master facilitation skills. Don't get that twisted. I'm not engaging in therapy.
Wait,
But what-
like I said,
but what-
Wait. I don't want to attack, but let me say this, and it's really about boundary setting, right?
Yeah.
I've had to manage. I'm talking as a human being now, not the vice mayor. I see Flandre, no, it's school with you.
Oh.
I have to. We all have to set boundaries, because there is a lot of trauma in our community that I will say, just coming back and being in it, I've had to literally say, okay, I'm turning my phone off now, and that will be there when I turn it back on. I will allow myself certain days to have certain conversations. I'm not gonna have them every day, because then I'll start thinking it's doom and gloom all the time. It's doom and everything is bad. No, everything is not bad. There is a lot of bad, but I think there's more good in Stockton than there is bad. But all we're surrounded with all the time is the trauma. That is real that we have to work through. But what I've learned in therapy is if you don't start working through your shit will work through you. And it will eat you alive from the inside. So I'm telling people that if in order to get to that other side of darkness, we have to believe that there's light and then be in pursuit of that. And I think that, like, where I can show up and talk to kids, one school I talked to the other day was like 50 kids. And at first they weren't engaged because don't nobody want to talk to the old vice mayor. What the vice mayor doing here? But then as I started telling my journey and took it all the way back to when I was in a one school, then they start paying attention. By the time I was done talking, one of the kids said, do you ever think of giving up? I said, I wanted to give up on the way here. Yes, that's okay, but don't give up. So it's just continuing to put that messaging out, but understanding that the trauma, because she will call me and say, here's the trauma, and I'll be on the other end like, no, you will not. I gotta protect my peace and my mental health. Right?
So I usually set the scene on how I'm gonna tell him something to engage, so we can also encourage empathy too. So we're out here, we're on the ground, we're doing the work. Philandra?
Yes. Thank you for all of that. And thank you for failing forward, because that's really what it is, right? Just the continual momentum. But I think I have a couple questions. One is these are like the way that you've explained your 10-year plan. In my mind, it's a piloting thing. And how are you, because, I don't stay in your district any longer, but how are you connecting with the other council members there? Because the thing about it is that there are untouched areas. Case in point, we all know Kelly Drive is untouched. Nothing goes there. Transportation, it's a food desert. We touch on that without even it being a part of the neighborhoods that we're supposed to do. But we're really, we got kids there. We got kids that walk to school. There's gun. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to go through all that. Everybody in here knows that. But my thing is, how are you all like really connecting and saying, okay, District 1, this is working. District 2, like, let's look at it from everybody in my mind on the district, their plan should be the same, right? Because it's needed from the north to the south, to the east, to the west. And so that's one, but I really am focused on youth. So answer that one. Yeah.
Let me tell you what I'm doing. So I'm petty as hell, right? I'm a petty person. It's just in my nature, Philandra. You knew me since high school, right? So I'm big on social media. I don't know if you see, I will post and say anything. I post. As soon as my colleague got pulled over by the police, sorry, I had to put y'all out there. I was like, he need to resign. I'm on because I'm all about accountability. My mother used to say, don't effing cuss. And I used to be confused because you just cuss. So, but you have to emulate what you want from me. We have to emulate what we want from you. And when you say, what are y'all going to do? What are we going to do? Because we all in the community. Yeah. It's just some of us have different roles. Community leader, elected official, a pastor elected, advocate. We're all, it's we. It ain't what y'all, it ain't a us versus you. When I came into City Hall, I had to be very clear. It ain't city leaders and city staff, because it was very us versus them. No, we all one. We have different roles and different level of authority, but we're all one. So we're leveling the playing field that there's any hierarchy that us versus them. That's number one. Number two, what I'm doing to being petty is I'll go on social media and say my ideas and show what I'm doing and get everybody excited. And it starts a conversation. Well, why ain't that happening in my district? So my colleagues are feeling pressure, because I will get some calls where they'll say, can you please stop, because now I'm getting pressure. No, step up. I have a bigger platform, but I'll help you too. So this plan that we got for District 6 is now being created for every district.
Okay.
However, your rep gotta wanna show up. District 1, you got a great person. She's motivated. I'm getting ready to go meet with her right now about the homeless work. Councilman Padilla. So she's I think next. I think District number 4 is next. So that's the Miracle Mile, all that area. Then District 1, and then I said today, just get District 5. Whether he show up or not, I'll show up for District 5 because we got to get the work going for my neighborhood. So I am making sure that what I'm doing is spilling over into the other areas, because it isn't all about District 6 for me. It's about the whole city.
And I
Okay.
appreciate that. We're gonna hold him to that, right?
Hold me accountable.
Because Reinvent South Stockton Coalition is not just CBOs. It's not just larger partners. It's the residents. It's resident centered. So when we hold these space, we're holding it with that intention. That when we did those candidate forums, we got so much pushback. There's a lot of misinformation. And so knowing that we went after our 501c3, we are nonpartisan. We hold space for everybody. So just like we're gonna have a community conversation with District 6, we'll have a community conversation with District 5.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are a neutral, solution-focused collective working together to bring the residents out and to allow them to advocate on behalf of themselves. And then we'll bring it to the council on behalf of themselves.
And accountability goes both ways. And here's why I'm saying I can't say 8 years. You know why? Because I'm going to let you guys decide if you want me here for 8 years. If the voters say we're not happy with you, I ain't even going to run again. Cool. Find somebody that can do it better. Good luck. But we got to hold each other accountable. When I went on Facebook and I held the NAACP accountable, no, you ain't out here talking about the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, but where's that? Well, who? What color people? Certain people, certain friends? Because what I know for sure is I work with the NAACP on the national level, and I understand what the intentionality of the NAACP is. So as a member of the NAACP in Stockton, I got to hold my people accountable. We got to hold each other accountable. And it's interesting when you get elected that people go, well, you're not supposed to say that because you're the vice mayor. Why? You get to say what you need to say in terms of accountability. I get to say what I need to say as accountability. Whether it hits different is something you can deal with in the car, but at least you get what I give you, and that's the truth. And look, I'm all about building coalitions, because instead of saying don't support the NAACP, I said no, go join the NAACP. We should all join it, and we should build it, and we should make it stronger, and we will do that across the whole city.
Fred,
Well,
Fred,
but
hold on. We gotta be equitable. I need you to parking lot. I need everyone's voices to come. That's why I put this here, right? Let's share the space. Fred?
Community policing. Stan did it with the police department back in the 90s when Southeast Stockton was crack central. Multiple murders. What developed over time was, hey, congratulations on your promotions. Had dedicated officers to that neighborhood around Sierra Vista and around South Airport Way in East End. There was 4 officers on 2 different shifts covering most of the week. It was incredible. Those officers, mainly rookies, got to know the neighborhood, got to know the bad people, got to know the good people. So when they needed information, that whole thing of snitching didn't exist then. Because those officers were trusted, they were known, and people could go to them for help. That kind of went away in the 2010s. And as we struggled with trying to keep enough officers on staff. It has such a dynamic improvement, particularly you got neighborhoods that are being traumatized, kids can't walk to school, kid can't use the park. Experiment with it. Find some officers that are willing to do it. There usually was a lot more officers willing to do it. Went back and forth, then the officers union was willing to have participate.
So a couple things I heard, a couple reactions. One, great ideology, but remember, I know people say, "Oh, he's an outsider. He's from Hollywood." No, I grew up. This is hometown, right? So like, I was here in the '90s. When you talk about ceasefire that we're under right now, the ceasefire plan was actually implemented back in 1997 when my brother was murdered here. I was shot in '95. People know my story, '94. And out of 5 of my brothers, 4 of us, I think, have been shot, right? So like, violence has been a thing that has just been a thing. Poverty alleviation, a lack of that, strategic oppression been going on. I remember the officers at 47. I remember Blondie. I remember Sandoval. I remember Superman. I remember our officers in our community. We didn't like Superman, but we loved Blondie. Blondie was tough, but he was fair, right? Lots have happened since then. But you said something about it being a crack neighborhood. My mother was a white woman on crack in North Stockton, so I just want to clarify that crack was everywhere in the '90s. It wasn't just in South Stockton. It was in all over the city. But I think that community policing, that's why reestablishing police substations, which I'm thankful that Peter at the Housing Authority wants to integrate building this space in the area. We're going to make sure we fund and support the development of it in Western Ranch. And so we have those areas, right? The flock cameras that were funded, where we're going to get over 100-something cameras all throughout the city to be able to start capturing crime in real time. The exploration of what a real-time crime center looks like. How do we get funding to support that? But guess what? Community policing, what's changed? George Floyd happened. That's a real thing. I am pro Black Lives Matter, but I am not defund the police. I believe there's good police. I believe there's bad police. Just like I believe there's good Black people, there's bad Black people. There's good Mexicans, bad Mexicans. There's just good and bad in everything. Our narrative has to change. How we communicate to our kids has to change. The conversation I'm having with the police and the DA here is something I probably would have never had back in the '90s because what I was in at the time wasn't this, okay? Just George Floyd is a real thing. The trauma to the Black person's experience in the world is a real lived thing. Most people I know that are of color, when the police get behind them, they get nervous. They ain't even doing nothing. They just get nervous. It's inherently in our minds. But the way that this department, I can only speak for this department, is working to go deeper in our communities. When we had the 4,000 people out at my toy drive and the police were out there passing out toys, the firefighters were playing basketball with the kids, that's how you start to change. But there was an element in the city before we got elected where that was not supported as a priority from beyond the department. The department wasn't allowed to have a relationship that is developing with the community. I'm breaking the fourth wall and telling you what was happening behind the scenes. We're changing that now. We're supporting our department, but the community policing we need to get to, which was a part of the whole Black Lives Matter conversation, was us. Our churches bringing more kids in. Us leaders creating spaces, using our joint partnership agreements with the school district to have after-school activities where we may not have all the staff, but where are the parents volunteering? I'm gonna say one more thing, and this is gonna be controversial when it comes to community policing. The safety of our community and our kids is not solely on the police department. It's on our parents. Some of them are late, lazy, and absent. I don't know why it's that way. I don't have all the answers. I'm looking for the answers. I talked to Bishop Bullock. He was saying we used to give out food to our community to bring our community in. I said, we got to figure out how to get you the money to hold these spaces to bring families in. So that way, whatever we need to do as creative bait to bring them in, hopefully the message they leave with is if you see something, say something. And snitching only applies if you subscribe to gang culture. And if you're in the gang culture, well, here's the war on gangs that's coming. You got to decide what side of the war you want to be on. You want to be on the side that wants to resolve the war and help save our community, or do you want to be on the side of the war that's going to go toe-to-toe with the people going to war with you? We're going to help get people on the other side of it by investing in the community, supporting our department, partnering with our community organizations, but also shifting some responsibility to the parents, who I think in many ways, in some situations, have absolved themselves.
We're speaking the same language. We appreciate that. You have a very systematic way and approach, long vision.
For sure.
And RSSC want to help you with the build. So when we say RSSC, it's not me and the staff. It's all these partners in the room come together. We want to help you with the build. And we want to do it regionally. That's the strategy. All right?
I need you to flip the narrative though. You're not helping me. I'm helping you.
Yes.
We're helping each other because remember, the elected people, the city staff, city manager, think about it this way, and this is what I said to Fritz Groupie, right? I don't understand this community why we're all in a car trying to get somewhere. We're mainly focused on the driver. The distraction we get from the destination is on who's driving the car. The car gonna get driven. We need to make sure we put the right driver in the car. We have a temporary driver in there right now, but we'll get to the permanent driver at some point. That driver needs to be able to listen to everybody in the car with respect to the directions. Where are we going? Where are we going? How are we gonna get there the most efficient? But I'm going to help make sure that the car has gas. That's my role, make sure the car has gas. But my job is not the driver, that's the city manager. And the passengers in the car are all the people who have the interest in seeing the car get to its destination. But when you put all your faith, meaning all your hope in me, I'm not the one doing all the work, you are. I'm just gonna make sure that we get the gas that we need to get the work done, if that makes sense.
And I'm still your analogy because that was really dope, right?
Don't steal the police.
I'm stealing it. RSSC, and I'm gonna use that in our training of collective impact. RSSC to y'all, the collective, right, is the structure on which the vehicle can go.
Yeah.
So whether it be the engine, whether it be the systems, electrical parts, RSSC wants to provide that to stabilize what you all need to do. So when we go to the city, right, we've been going to our ad hoc committees, right? Join those committees, break out and do the work. We have Nzinga in the house, right? He wrote a whole curriculum on Black literature. Black is lit. Wrote a whole curriculum and was very astute in Aspire schools for teaching that type of education that was very important to those outcomes we wanted to see. Because we said in education after our survey data that representation matters. So what he's explaining system, we're really the build in this room. And I want us to not be afraid to speak up for what you're wanting and reach out to your elected officials, but also join back in the backbone work. It's very imperative on the build. We have any more questions before we close out?
We do, we have Andrew here.
Andrew,
Yep.
yes.
No,
Public
just-
safety?
Oh, definitely, always. That's all I do. You know, first, how you said you pulled up on that store, that's how you got to do it, to operate in real time. You know what I mean? Because I know my son, years ago, we pulled up to a gas station on the south side. He said, Dad, let me get one of these juices. I get grab, he put it on the counter. It was a buzzball when they first came out. What the hell is this so close to a kid? And I'm looking down, they got knives right there, they got meth pipes for sale. I'm like, bro, we out of here. How you selling this stuff to our community? So pulling up and holding folks accountable, definitely. Smoke shops, all that. The young man that passed away, you know, that's hard. That's right in my area. It's crazy you're speaking on it because I'm on my way home yesterday with my son. And he's like, Dad, why'd they do that to him? We live right across the street. He walks there. I do this kind of work. He's like, well, why? I was like, I don't know. You know, I don't have the answer for you. He's like, well, I'm scared to walk through this park now. I'm like, I would too. I'd be scared to walk that park because it's not for kids. There ain't no playground no more. They cut the playground out and took it out. You know what I mean? So, I mean, is it really a park or is it just grass? But that trauma is in the community. As I do this, I've been doing this work for 16 years now. And I started doing it because I seen the homicide rate of Black and brown young men in the community. I said, dang, that's either gonna be me or my son, you know, so it's getting so close to home. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, this is crazy. I do this work and I'm scared every single day for my son. Being real. I'll do this work and go wherever. We'll go hospitals, anything. I got out of prison in 2010, walk the yard. That didn't scare me. What scares me is the safety of my son. You know what I mean? I'm like, every day he's gonna start driving. I gotta take him, matter of fact, today, to take his test. I'm scared. Like literally, I'm like, bro, you can only go to this gas station. You can't do this. And they want to take your car, give it to them. It's a constant fear. And I'm not the only one. And I'm trained with all the mental health stuff, but sometimes it's just crazy. So definitely appreciate the stuff that you're doing and bringing to the community because we need it. You know, we need this.
You're talking to somebody whose house, I mean, my neighbors, they laugh because they walk by my house. When I tell you the way the whole block lights up, I got sirens, cameras, guns, I got it all, right? When I was just in Miami over the weekend, and me as being a very visible person that people know, walking freely, enjoying life, not thinking of anything. Same with New York, same with LA. And then when I'm home, it's weird. Like I feel I'm always on point, always on. I'm always paying attention, right? I think that there is a mentality in all of us that it goes back to the first chapter of my book, Surviving Stockton. Like if you, in the first line, I think it says, if you can, I learned that as a kid, if you can survive Stockton, you can survive anything. We are all in survival mode, right? Whether it's the housing market, whether it's dealing with the challenge with the homeless. I mean, the officers went to go deal with a homeless encampment, the homeless man shot at the police. Like it's so unpredictable now, right? That we are always on edge. And that does create a culture of anxiety. It creates a culture of not really sure, like the unknown. I think the way we change that is shifting our mentalities from finding who's responsible for it and then feeling responsible for it, right? Like you're doing your part at your day job and you're doing your job as a parent. Pastor Trina's doing her job as an advocate and doing her job as a pastor. When we speak into people, what are we speaking into them? Is it doom and gloom or all is bad, or are we having that hard conversation? I remember when I was in a group home at Children's Home of Stockton, and Patrick Purdy went to Cleveland School and shot all those kids. And I came home not understanding why all these kids just got shot at school, because I was at August Elementary, and now I'm going back to Children's Home with my counselor explaining to us before dinner that all these kids were just murdered, right? Those moments are never going to leave us, but it shapes, we have to decide how we're pouring into each other and how we use that trauma to shape the future experience for us.
Uh-oh, he said, use that trauma.
No, don't live in it and don't transfer it.
Yeah.
Don't
transfer
live in it and don't transfer, but be trauma informed.
Let me say something.
You just explained it, y'all.
No. When somebody puts trauma on a flight to me, I turn that flight right back because I've already dealt and worked through my trauma. And I'm not in a place where I live in it anymore. I've been shot. When my brother got murdered, I literally had the choice. And I remember that night going home, writing a list of all the people I wanted to kill.
Yeah.
This person that did this to him. This person that did this to him. This person, right? And I remember having a mental moment with myself to decide what direction do you want to go? Because if I go that direction, I'm going to successfully kill them, be in prison, or they're going to kill me and I'm going to die. Or am I going to use that trauma to live for my brother and use it as the fuel to fuel everything I do? I chose the latter, right? So the conversations we have are important. And that's why we're thinking long-term, like, what does that partnership with the school district look like? Because I can get the arena, because we're the city now. We have the arena. How do we put 12,000 young people in those seats? And then what is it they hear and what is it they leave with? How do we start this See Something, Say Something campaign where we can eradicate that snitch culture stuff? But like, how do we start to eradicate that? Are we my brother's keeper? If we are, then what does that actually mean? And how do we be of service to each other instead of always wanting that service to come attached to a transaction, right? And we as leaders have to hold each other accountable. So people may look at what I'm saying online about my colleague or what I'm doing. I'm doing to my colleagues what I would want done to me if I am out of order. We can't keep telling our kids, so messaging, don't effing cuss, do this, don't do that, but I'm gonna do what I want. You can't do that and then expect to see change behavior, because they're gonna agree in your face and then walk behind your back and talk about you and do whatever they wanna do. So it's a process, and again, that 10-year process is, how do we theme campaigns? So Light Up Stockton. Okay, Light Up Stockton sounds cool, so we're gonna turn on the lights. What is our See Something, Say Something campaign? And how do we create that thing that people see and then start to hear it over and over and then say, man, if you see something, you better say something. How do we address the kids? Because the kids who are killing people now are getting younger. A 12 or 13-year-old is going to murder because they know they'll be out of prison by 24. So they're being recruited, and it's in the music. So are we listening to the music, and are we going to the musicians? Because we know who they are. There's no one singular approach to it, but I would say the fact that your kid is asking the question and having the courage to ask that question and seek the answer is really, it's a good step.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have to be a good timekeeper to keep it
I got
where we're at.
my business card is right here.
And I want to say, Flandra wrote some more questions on the
Man,
handout too,
Flandra,
right?
So you better take them questions and read them.
At
least read them.
Let's have next steps, because I don't like having this type of meeting. We're too busy trying to save lives and do the work. Next steps, please. Put your thoughts on where we need, from what you heard, where we need to really truly focus on before you leave here today. We're gonna share out a document with everyone that came, and they're gonna take it back to the work groups. And if we find it, time, because I know everybody is, the capacity time is a thing, come back to those committees. So your project coordinators will be reaching out to you, right? So we want to kind of support where the city is trying to go. We're also learning where the county is trying to go, right? I want to thank my staff. I want to thank Vice Mayor for taking the time to come be with us and see us and take our questions. I also want to thank United Way for opening up this space to the community. Did wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. They bought the pizza as well. Shout out to Mountain Mike as well. Wilson Way.
Yeah, I'll leave my
Shout out,
thank you so much,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
We gotta do more of this. I will make myself available for more of this. And stakeholder meetings are important because again, we talk about public safety, it's not just what they're gonna leave and do, what are we gonna leave and do? And when we have that faith-based meeting, bringing us all together to figure out how we can start making that cool, because you go in some of these churches, you get caught in that spirit, it'll change the direction of where you're gonna go, for the good or the bad. But I'm here to help, so thank you, this was great, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right. So we want to lead out in a good way. Did anybody have any opening conversations you may wanted to have said? We're going to capture that and give that feedback as well. Remember, we're still live streaming to our family members that couldn't be here. But we're able to now know openly that we can go to city council and hold our District 6 representative accountable. He said, do it that way. And I think we need to mobilize in civic engagement in a good way where we go and we are corresponding on the things that we want from the residents, bring the residents' voice in so we can bring it to city council, that seems to be the direction that they want to go. But we want to center our work on trying to support what we can right now, especially in the current administration. A lot of your funding may be getting cut. So you have to think state strategy, national strategy for doing the restorative work that we do, the neighborhood transformation work that we do, okay? So let's be smart. Let's check on one another. It's hard out there. Be diligent to work with city officials back and forth. They're trying to build the infrastructure back. They're trying to understand what's going on. We have our community health needs assessment.
That's right.
We sent it to you in your constant contacts. We need you guys to lift that survey up. They're closing it when?
March 6th.
March 6th. This community health needs assessment is money being poured back in to do the things you want done. And their health plans, now the management care plans have to pour that money back in to get some of this wellness at the level. That means housing. That means programs for mentorships of dads that are formerly incarcerated coming out. To keep them off the street, the recidivism, and to let them be with their kids and create that community that we had at T-ball, football, at Van Bursker, right? We had the basketball court tournaments. We knew each other, building that community again. All right? So that's how we want to work for you all that's a part of this collective. And we want to support you in lifting up your voices. Anybody has any questions before we leave?
Just thank you for holding space. It's always good.
Did we hold it okay? Because you know what? We should have did a survey. Anytime we do anything for the collective, we should do a survey and hear from y'all.
You can send it
You
out.
felt comfortable? Did you feel heard? What about the facilitation? Because when big energy comes to this podium, including mine, we practice stepping back. We practice coming forward too, to make sure it's balanced. Did everybody feel heard? Do we need more of this?
No, I didn't feel heard.
Okay.
Yes.
It's your truth? What else? What else came up for you before
I
we
think
close?
that you guys have a really good vision with your district, and I wish you guys.
It's
good
us.
luck.
It's
Our
us.
district, yes.
Yeah.
And I really hope that everything falls in place, because you guys have a really good idea for the neighborhood.
Okay.
The kids do deserve better. The bathrooms should be open. There should be playgrounds, should be a safe space.
So you're part of that.
Families.
When you
Yes.
go, you and y'all do y'all recruitment, fentanyl awareness, our shelter, y'all part of that.
Yeah.
This is not,
Are leaving. The kids we serve.
so it's not just us. If you came here, I personally talked to you as a C-level executive. about what we're trying to do. We have to mobilize collectively. That's what this coalition is. The staff would not be in position if it wasn't for y'all. Okay? So take ownership. When y'all come into your committee breakouts, whatever y'all choose to do your work in, know that you're coming with your ideas, you're talking and connecting to your residents, and you're empowering both ways. Right? It's not top heavy at the political level, it's balance. Community with policy in place. Okay? That's RSSC. All right, clap it up. Y'all get business here. For all different walks coming in today, please listen. Kristen can't eat that much pizza.
I was gonna say, take pizza, please.
My